And we are live. Hey guys, this is Brad and Mike with Dallas Geek. Mike, how you doing today?
Meh.
So enthusiastic. So, guys, thank you for joining us. We are back yet again with another live stream from quarantine. So, with that,
is that what we're calling this? Live stream from quarantine?
I mean, it feels kind of appropriate, doesn't it? Better than live stream from isolation, live stream from forced at home depression, or, you know, social anxiety, or whatever else you could call this.
I guess the emo kid in me actually prefers all this.
Fair. But with that, guys, as always, if this is your first time to join us, please do not forget to like the video and follow us on Facebook and subscribe over on YouTube. There should be a little button right about here on the screen. So you know,
I
please.
can't find the button. Where's the button, Brad?
That feels more like a you problem, but you know.
Where's the damn button?
With that, so what we're talking about today, in case you did not see the title of this video, we are going to be talking about the 1960s Batman. Yes, Adam West, Burt Ward, for some people, the defining Batman. And we're going to see if...
Those people are bad people.
We're going to take a look at this and see if, looking at both the series and the movie, if either of those could actually survive in today's pop culture environment, especially considering what the MCU has given us, both in terms of the super serious superheroes as well as the comedic, to give more of a modern equivalent to the 1960s Batman, as well as all of the many superhero parodies. So, could Adam West's version of Batman survive today and be as popular as it was? And what advice do we, as, you know, hardcore movie fans, think could have made it fit in with today? So, yeah, Mike, what do you think?
I guess it could work today. I guess as a... I don't want to say to the level of R-ratedness as a Mel Brooks parody, but if...
Wow, okay.
But I mean, if you think about it, History of the World, Spaceballs, Blazing Saddles, Robin Hood Men in Tights, all of those were kind of Young Frankenstein. They were all caricatures and they were all over-stylized parodies of a genre-style film. I think if you were going that route, it could work. A la the original Casino Royale.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like a standalone, it's going to have the same tone as it did in the 1960s, but set in modern day.
Yeah, I think its sense of humor was very decade specific. Maybe that type of humor could have survived like in the 1970s, maybe 1980s, but once we got to the 90s, I feel like that particular style of humor sort of started to fade a little bit into the background. But I do think that with a resurgence of quirky comedies, especially since around like 2010-ish, a la Wes Anderson and, you know, the others of his indie ilk,
that's probably a better genre style than a Mel Brooks movie.
Yeah, I feel like that there is a place where keeping the same sensibilities, the same-ish style of humor, I think it could have survived today, sort of. But I mean, I think it's really important for us to be able to address what made it popular at the time anyway. I mean, was it just the goofy acting and all the bright colors? Or, I mean, what was the appeal of Adam West's Batman?
Yeah, I guess that's a really good question. I mean, so TV wasn't like it is now, obviously. I mean, you had 4 channels.
Give or take, yeah.
CBS, ABC, NBC. No, so that'd be 3. So you essentially had 3 channels. What were the big shows back in the 60s? Was it anything even remotely close to what you were getting with a live-action Batman? And keep in mind, this was a live-action Batman.
Mm-hmm.
This was the first iteration of Batman to the masses, if you will.
Yeah.
So, plus you had, the 60s would essentially be the Silver Age of comics. So you had the resurgence of you had the resurgence of the comic industry in the 60s.
Well, would it have been the Silver Age, or would that have still been the Golden Age? Because wasn't Silver Age the resurgence of the serious take on?
You talk, I'll look it up.
Alright. But yeah, I mean, at the time, you end up, the only real competition that Batman had, same year too, was the Green Hornet. And... Yeah. No,
the Silver Age of comics is considered to cover the period from 1956 to circa 1970.
Okay. Fair enough.
The Silver Age of comics.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Don't question me and my knowledge, Bradley.
Well. But yeah, no, I mean, the Green Hornet was really the only main bit of competition in terms of the genre. Right. But, I mean, you go in and you want to talk about popular shows that were in the same vein of style.
Yeah. Can I guess some?
Sure, go for it.
We're going to have I Love Lucy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Bewitched.
Yep.
Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
Damn, it's almost like I know stuff.
Star Trek. Lost in Space.
Yeah, Star Trek. Yeah, Star Trek would have been 66, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Even Get Smart.
Oh, God, yeah, that would have been... Wow, okay.
And, of course, just about everything classic Hanna-Barbera. I mean, you want to go animated, but still similar sense of humor. I mean...
Yeah, I think we were, Scooby-Doo debuted in 68 or 69, if I remember right. But you had all the Looney Tunes.
Flintstones.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm about to say, with it being kind of the golden age of the Hanna-Barbera run, it makes sense for it to be a kind of essentially presented as a live-action comic book with the POW and the whams popping up on the screen and the vibrant colors and the way overacting from the villains and from Adam Wee.
And I mean, it's really important to remember that up until the time that this version of Batman came out, both in the comics and the TV show, there had been a real push publicly to try to lighten the mood of comic book heroes, because after the events of World War II, things got really dark, and we started to see what would be considered today pretty normal, but at the time was very mature sensibilities being brought into comic books, and that was not exactly what parents wanted their kids reading, because at the time, comic books really were seen as a very kid-oriented medium. So,
which is funny because there's one flagship character that was literally made as war propaganda. But
hey, let's be fair. Multiple superheroes got the chance to punch Hitler. I'm just saying. It
How many of
wasn't
them
just
did
the
it
one.
on the cover of their? How many of them did it on the cover of their first issue?
I mean, yeah, sure, we got copycats, but yeah, no, I mean, it was. I think the sense of humor that we got out of it, the sense of the sense of the community that the show and the movie were speaking to, it was a very unique time, and I think, especially now with how serious everything has gotten, and with how honestly depressing life has kind of started to turn in the last decade-ish, depending on how far back you really want to take this. I mean, there is more and more rumbling within the pop culture fandoms for a need for something lighthearted. So I can totally see a potential resurgence of this version of Batman if given the chance and the right director. The problem, as we continue to touch on, is it has to be done with a very specific style to it, because if you don't, you're going to lose a sense of humor. I mean, looking at the other shows from the 60s and 70s that have attempted to be given a modern TV or movie remake, like Bewitched, like
Terrible.
The Green Hornet, like, I mean,
had its moments.
Even Wonder Woman, Charlie's Angels.
Are we talking about the show, or are we talking about the rebooted movie, or the other rebooted movie?
Either, honestly. Get Smart. I mean, you had...
Wasn't bad.
Even Hawaii Five-0. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I mean, we could honestly go on, because there have been so many attempts at trying to take something that was popular in the 60s or 70s that had that heavy sense of camp, and give it either a more serious makeover, which sometimes works. Like, I mean, Hawaii Five-0's show had survived how many seasons and seemed to be more or less a critical success.
8 or 9, right?
Yeah, and then
for like almost a decade.
Yeah, and I mean, even then you had the Man from U.N.C.L.E. was given a super serious makeover, and that did pretty decently. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it was like massively fantastic, but I mean the ratings came back pretty decently, and the box office returns were kind. So I mean,
you remember, Guy Ritchie does not make bad movies.
Well, Arthur.
Name one. Don't worry, I'll wait.
Arthur.
Okay,
Charlie
name
Hunnam.
2.
But yeah, I mean,
no. Look, I think
sometimes trying to take the comedy and making it serious doesn't work. But at the same time, you look at Bewitched, or I mean, honestly, even. I mean, I know I'm gonna get some pushback from some people, but even the remake of Get Smart, you try to give it a modern humor sensibility, and you lose the charm of it, because it's not that it was a comedy, it was that it was a specific type of comedy, because the emphasis was on the camp more than the comedy itself, and that matters. Like, camp and comedy, while similar, are not the same.
That seems to be the thing that that seems to be the other issue that everybody keeps running into, is that everybody that wants to remake these shows from the 60s and 70s automatically thinks that they're going to be comedies.
Yeah.
Charlie's Angels, let's make it a comedy. Wasn't a comedy. Starsky and Hutch, let's make it a comedy. Wasn't a comedy.
Or it was a comedy and they want to make it,
and
and they just don't think that a comedy would work in today's audience. So, you know, you can't even crack a joke. You know, that's not right.
But I think, you know, I don't think that you're wrong to say that it could survive in today's, you know, I guess climate would be the right word to say. Because I mean, you did kind of have a reboot of it with Batman the Brave and the Bold.
Yeah. Kind of,
if
and I
you really
mean,
want to
it
think
did
about
well.
it, that it was animated, but it was still that very.
Yeah.
It was the same. It was the same costume. It was the same over stylized, overacting.
Yeah. I
Like,
actually
it
liked
was
it.
essentially a comic book.
I liked it, honestly.
Brave and the Bold was a lot of fun. It was fun.
Yeah, it didn't take itself too seriously. Like, you knew that you were getting Batman, but it was a Batman you could just sit back, relax, and enjoy. You didn't have to overanalyze. You didn't have to feel like you had to be on the edge of your seat. It was just fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
and maybe that's,
yeah.
you know, maybe stuff from that era doesn't necessarily translate to live action well, because everything has changed so much. Like, I mean, if you think about it, like, you had I Love Lucy is one of the biggest shows in TV history, and they couldn't show a married couple sleeping in the same bed. But we're
Sure.
going to take that and immediately translate it to modern times?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, the thing that you have to remember is, what is the definition of camp? Because I think that really comes back to making a difference in how these shows and movies were perceived in the first place.
Right.
I mean, what do you think camp is?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think camp is something, I don't know. Camp is one of those things, it's like, I don't really know how to describe it, but when I see it, I know what it is. To quote another famous.
It was the theme of, what was it, last year's Met Gala? You didn't get the definition from all the coverage on that to be able to try to help educate you?
Yeah, right. But no, like, camp, cheesy, corny, like, I kind of include all of those together. Oh, God. Son of a... What's the name of that movie that takes place at the summer camp? It's got, like, Janine Garofalo, Paul Rudd, Elizabeth Banks. Wet Hot American Summer.
Yes.
Like, that's camp. But it's purposely done to be campy.
Kind of. So, I mean, camp is, as it has slowly been attempted to be re-brought into the public consciousness, camp is, it's an aesthetic rather than a performance per se. It is an aesthetic and sensibility that is all about appealing to the over-the-top idea of bad taste and ironic value. It is intended to be just super over the top, and you could easily call it cheesy, even if it's not necessarily trying to be humorous, which is where a lot of people with the Met Gala kind of got thrown off by the definition, because everybody thought, oh, camp, you know, that's like the funny, silly stuff. No, not necessarily, but it has overlap. And if you choose to go camp, you know, like a campy comedy, like Batman, that becomes a whole different thing. And I think that needs to be very deeply remembered on this. Oh, hey, we got Cody. Yeah. Hey, Cody, how you doing?
Yeah, like I said, I don't know if it's something that would translate to modern audiences. Well, no matter how hard you tried.
Wes Anderson, like I said early on, Wes Anderson has made a career on camp. Like, literally everything Wes Anderson does is defined as camp. Whether it's humorous or not, his style is camp.
So then I guess I would push back. When they were making the Batman in the 60s, were they making it to be campy?
Yes.
Or were they making it to be... Do you think they were?
Yes. Oh, no, like, if you go back and watch interviews with Adam West in particular, he was very specific about what they were trying to do. They were trying to have fun. They were trying to be over the top. They were trying to be campy. It was all about trying to push the boundaries of just how cheesy they could be with it, and take advantage of, you know, the new color TV thing that they had, that they could really try to push the boundaries of, with, you know, the hyper color and you know, all these weird aesthetics. And, you know, that was part of why they did all the go-go dancing, and why they went in with well, most of Robin's dialogue. I mean, that was the thing. Yes, you had some other stylistic things that were there for the censors, like, you know, the bam, pow, whap. You know, that was to try to cover up the violence so that the censors didn't get all touchy about it. But it kind of added to the sense of aesthetic that they were going for without necessarily actually intending it to.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it was absolutely the intention. Because I don't think I've ever heard Adam West say in the interview that they were intending Batman to be a comedy. He said they wanted it to be fun, they wanted it to be campy, they wanted it to be a good time. But I've never actually heard an interview of his where he said they intended Batman to be a comedy. It had comedic value, and I think that's where somebody like Wes Anderson could really have a shot at giving new life to that style of Batman today, because it's that thing that would work. I mean, I think he or Taika Waititi honestly could really get that. I mean, have you seen Jojo Rabbit yet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, think about that over-the-topness that he had with Jojo Rabbit, and take that and make it Batman. I think that would really fit the style, and I think a modern audience would eat it up.
Possible. I mean, it really is possible. If only for just the nostalgia feel.
Yeah.
I think it's something that could definitely be. Well, like I mean, how long did The Brave and the Bold run for? The Brave and the Bold was what, 3 seasons?
Let me see.
Plus, I think The Brave and the Bold is still running in comic form, if I remember right. Are you wrong?
Batman the Brave and the Bold made it 65 episodes or 2 seasons.
2 seasons, okay.
Yep. 08 to 2011.
Yeah, so 3 years, yeah.
As for comic, yes, the comic is around, but I'm having trouble verifying if it is still in circulation.
It's still running.
Yeah.
It's probably not.
But yeah, I mean, that alone should say there is an appetite for it out there. I mean, especially for that Batman.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're not wrong. I think it would just be getting the right people to do it. Like you said, Wes Anderson or Taika Waititi would be a good one.
Yeah.
But it would be somebody that would have to come in knowing, like, hey, this is what it's going to be. And then the other thing, too, is Warner Brothers would have to sign off on it.
Sure. But, I mean, think about it like this. Without trying to replicate and replace the exact actors that were involved with it, because there's no way that you would ever find an audience willing to accept somebody intentionally trying to copy the performance of Cesar Romero or Eartha Kitt or Adam West or Burt Ward or Batgirl. Dang it. Anyway, I mean, you're never going to find anybody that is going to be willing to accept somebody trying to copy that performance and be them for the sake of the movie. But to be...
Yvonne Craig.
Thank you. But to be that variation of the character, like to be the Eartha Kitt style of Catwoman, to be the Cesar Romero style of Joker, with or without the mustache, your call. I mean, I think that is a thing that could really play well, and I'm honestly interested to see it. I think it could be a lot of fun if done right, done respectfully, and really given the chance for the director and actors to just let loose and have like genuine fun with it. Which means Warner Brothers can't micromanage. #1 rule for this to work?
Yeah, so I guess I would just come back to, I don't know. It's weird because, well, so they tried it with a live-action adaptation with Superman Returns with a different character. And it was still that Richard Donner, Chris Reeves style, and it just didn't translate.
Kind of. The problem that I think that had was a lot less the actors or the director or the story. I think it had a lot more to do with the tone. Because, I mean, look back at the actual first 2 Superman movies, the Richard Donner versions specifically.
Yeah.
There was more of a lightheartedness to it, not just in the way the characters were portrayed, but even the aesthetics. I mean, the fact that the Superman Returns aesthetic had a little bit more of a dim, slightly desaturated at times feel, it didn't really have the same personality. Like, the ideas were all there, but the spirit of it wasn't quite in the right place. And I don't.
That's where you and I are always going to disagree, because I still think that was a better adaptation of a Superman film than anything Zack Snyder did.
Well,
Come at me,
no.
fanboys.
Oh,
Come
no,
at me.
I'm not saying that was a bad movie per se. I don't think, if you're gonna hold it up against the best of Richard Donner Superman, I don't think it holds up, because I think it's kind of like the difference between Star Wars the original trilogy and Star Wars the sequel trilogy. The ideas are all there, but the spirit, the essence of the original concept is just not quite fitting. Like, you know what it should be. Everybody remembers that feeling, but there was just something about the creative process making it just miss the mark, in that it never quite convalesced back into the same spirit. And I think that...
See, and I would disagree.
I think that's kind of the same thing. Like, I think it was close. I don't think it was exact.
I think Force Awakens was, but that's just me.
Well, this isn't talking about the merits of the sequel series
Yeah,
from Star Wars. It's
different
just
topic for
comparison.
A different day.
But, you know,
Right.
I think it's the same concept. I think it's very possible to be able to redo this and come close in spirit and still miss the mark just enough that you're not quite lining up where you need it to be. And
yeah, I mean, that's you're not wrong.
I think that's the reason why Taika or Wes could actually pull it off, because the heart of that version of Batman, going back to it, was camp, and I think both of them would understand the essence of that better, which would in turn give them a running start rather than a walking start at trying to recapture the essence of the 1966 Batman. Like, I think if anybody could, they could, only because they actually understand the style. So.
Yeah, look, I don't... Like I said, I think there's an audience for it. I think there are things that have done it that have shown that there's an audience for it. It's just, It would be finding the right people to do it in live action form. Would you do it as a TV show, or would you do it as a movie? Would you...
I think it would have to be
a couple different... Yeah, well,
because I mean...
Why not an hour-long TV show?
I mean, even if you wanted to say, like, Netflix miniseries, how many times do you think, with something so iconic and so very, very specific, I mean, yes, more versions means more attempts to hit the mark correctly, but at the same time, with this specific thing, considering how deeply a very decent-sized portion of the fandom holds this version of Batman, how many times do you think they could maybe hit or miss exactly before the fandom turns on them? Because if they get the first one right, awesome. But if the second one is kind of not quite there,
well, so
third one
I
is,
guess
but then
my
the fourth
counter-
one like gets more off. I mean, what happens to the
So
critical
I
review
guess-
on that? I think
So I
it
guess my
tanks the whole
counter
thing.
argument to that would be, wouldn't you have to do it in a TV style to capture the essence of the villain of the week, to capture the essence of bringing in different guest stars to play villains?
Maybe. I mean, maybe if you
'Cause
did
that was
like
the big-
a
'cause that
Disney
was one of
Plus
the big-
style, where it was like
Right.
you let them do like 25, 30-minute installments. You actually put it out week after week rather than all at once, so you give people time to digest it. Yeah, maybe that actually could work.
Because remember, a big draw of it too was what actor's going to come and play this character.
True. Okay. I can see that. Yeah.
So I think that was a big draw for it. So I mean, if you don't have that, then that's a big part of what made it so iconic. Gone.
Okay. No, I see that. I see that. Okay.
Do you see it, Bradley?
I mean, you gotta understand, while this is not my favorite version of Batman at all, I 100% respect this version of Batman, because I will recognize without question that if the 1960s Batman comic and show and movie didn't exist, we would not have the Batman we have today, because it would not have survived. I respect this portion of history, and I also respect the fact that even the modern, darker versions of the stories continue to throw back references to these Golden Age stories in one way or another, because they mean something to the overall history, the legacy of Batman.
Yeah. I mean, look, I guess I look at it this way. If it could survive what Tim Burton did to it, it could survive anything.
And that's where you and I are going to have to disagree. I think Tim Burton is part of the reason why Batman... I think Tim Burton is the reason why Batman survived long enough to have an animated series and for Nolan to have a shot at it. I think if they went straight to Schumacher and didn't go Burton, Nolan would have never had his shot.
Possibly. Very possible.
So,
by the way, did you tell people what we're calling this segment?
No, actually, I don't even think I put it in the description of the video. I just kind of said generally what we're doing. What are we calling this
paying
segment?
you for, Brad? What are we paying you for?
I mean, you got to pay me first to be able to ask that question.
That's fair. That's fair. Sorry, I'll take care of you. Don't worry about it. So we're calling this "Does It Hold Up?" You know, in the modern climate with not a lot of news coming out and everybody getting nostalgic for remembering the times when they weren't stuck inside dealing with their families all the time, we figured this would be a good time to bring something out where we can go back and look at something that everybody maybe looks at through rose-colored glasses that probably doesn't need to be looked at through rose-colored glasses. And we just thought, naturally, why not go with the 60s Batman to start? But there will be more to come.
Mm-hmm. Now, the big question I think everybody should be asking is, will we or won't we do Tropic Thunder?
Oh, we're doing Tropic Thunder.
Ooh.
We're doing Tropic Thunder.
I don't know if I want to touch that one.
So if Rogan can do it on his podcast with Downey Jr., then we can do it.
Okay, A, we're not Joe Rogan, and B,
look,
we don't have Downey Jr. on here.
Oh, just
now,
let
if
me
we
make
did
a
get
call.
him,
I got
then
you.
I'd say
I got
yes,
you.
we
Let
have
me
to
make a-
talk
I
about
got it. Look, we're talking about Tropic Thunder, if only for the fact that it came out in possibly what was one of the most stacked years for movies ever.
Fair, but let's save that as the the treat to top off, you know, at least a multi live stream run doing this. You know, use it as the reward for sticking around.
Yeah, you have to build up to it, because remember, like Downey Jr.'s character says in the movie, you don't ever go.
Family friendly. And
so
with
you're gonna need that, you're gonna need that censor button ready for the Tropic Thunder episode. Then
we will work out the kinks on it. But with that, guys, thank you so much for sticking around this long. We absolutely appreciate it. Once again, if you missed it at the beginning of the video, please, if this is your first time to watch this, watch us, do not forget to follow us on Facebook and subscribe. Click the little button right here on the screen to subscribe on YouTube. And of course,
still don't see a damn button.
And of course, don't forget to like the video and share it with your friends. We absolutely would appreciate that and would love to get their thoughts on everything. And if you've stuck around to this point in the video, question of the day, which I realized we should have said much earlier than this, you know, for retention. Question of the day, though, down in the comments, please tell us what were your thoughts on the 1960s Batman, and do you think that it would have a shot at surviving in today's movie environment? So please go ahead and tell us down in those comments.
Feel free to disagree with Brad completely, because I do it all the time.
Yeah, that seems fair. But yeah, please tell us down in the comments, and until next time, this is Brad and Mike with Dallas Geek saying, see ya.